to go with the week 12? Week 12 WATD Fantasy Draft. It's Final Four weekend, and fortunately for us, we've still got plenty of teams left to choose from as we have a whole bunch of South Shore, Metro South area teams that are still alive in the playoffs. So excited to be ready to go with another fantasy draft and a bunch of different options here. Quinn Kelly, Johnny Rourke, Brennan Connolly. Let's get into it. The order this week as we continue on the rotation, it'll be me, then Brendan, then Johnny. A couple of big highlights from last week, looking over some of the guys that got picked. We talked, I think, a little bit about it on Sunday on the Sports Exchange, but Jack Lucarelli with a 4 touchdown game for Johnny last week. That was a big one for him. We did miss out on the top quarterback of the area for the week, but that one still was a huge performance there. Davin True had a buck 80, I think for you, Brendan, buck
I
80 and
think
a couple
so.
of scores. So yeah, big game for him. And then looking at the wide receivers, I think nothing jumps. Oh, Nathan Helms. Nathan Helms had a 3 touchdown game, and I think that was for you, Johnny. So uh, fitting that the rotation works out this way because I think Johnny blew doors last week. So he'll slide to the back, and we'll get right into it. So Final Four weekend fantasy draft. Here we go, and I'll take to the podium. And as I said just a moment ago, we had some really good quarterback performances through the first 2 weeks of these fantasy drafts, at least as far as the playoffs go, I should say. Brendan hitting on 50 plus point effort from Mikey Galligan in the first round of the playoffs, 4 touchdown game from Jack Lucarelli. But we did miss out on last week. Jack Balzerini with a 300 plus yard day and 7 touchdown passes. So I will not be missing out on that again. I'm going to go Jack Balzerini off the top with the first pick. They're going to have to air it out. Obviously, they came in with a really high-flying passing attack last year into the same matchup with West Boylston, and it didn't quite work out. Another year, a little more experience. Maybe Jack Balzerini has a little bit more success for Carver as they try to get back to the Super Bowl for the second straight year. All right, Brendan.
This is a guy who definitely went in the regular season, and I feel like you could take him any week because it feels like he's matchup proof. But I feel like this is the best week to use him, given the fact that the opponents remaining on the schedule should Situate advance. I'm going to go with Willie Robinson for my first running back.
Yeah, I mean, Willie's awesome, man. I'm such a big fan. And I think that we saw last year in the matchup, it was definitely a more ground focus. This is another one of those repeat Final Four matchups. Situate had 3 touchdowns in the first go around against Grafton, but it was a scoreless second half. I think just Grafton's probably going to be a little bit tougher than maybe we're giving them credit for. I still love Situate to advance, but I think controlling the clock with Willie on the ground is going to be a big piece of things for
And
Situate.
and I think Willie Robinson, if I'm not mistaken, was their catalyst
Yeah,
for the majority of that game against Grafton last year. So would not be surprised to see a repeat performance.
no doubt about it. All right, Johnny, close up round one.
I'll go running back as well. I'm going to go to a different game. I'm going to go to the Norwell Hudson game. I'm going to go Will Bostrom from Norwell. I mean, we saw Sandwich play Hudson pretty well, which I think was a positive if you're a South Shore football fan because Hudson's really good. We saw them, take down EB pretty easily. But if Norwell's gonna take down Hudson in the upset, I think they have a chance. But they're gonna have to play really well, and Will is obviously at the center of that.
Yeah, Will's at the center of just about any success this team has, right? I mean, he's one of the best running backs in the area. He's immensely important to what Norwell does, and I think they're going to rely heavily on him in this game. He and Jack, obviously, I think having that from the quarterback position, that ground attack is important as well. But I think Will is going to be, as Will goes, they'll go in this game in my mind. So good pick, Johnny. All right, I'll take us into round two. I'm going to go wide receiver. And I am going to go dip my toe into the Hanover-Foxborough matchup. We had a couple of Hanover receivers come off the board last week. I'm going to go to a different one. I'm going to go to Ben Johnson. I think the senior captain has been really, really good this year, kind of an unsung hero of a good Hanover team that, as tough a test as they're going to have here coming up against Foxborough, I think probably has a really good chance of advancing in this one. I think Johnson's going to be a piece of that getting involved in the passing game. So yeah, give me Ben Johnson. I'll kick it to you, Brennan.
I'm going to go quarterback here, and I think this is going to be another great game. I don't think we're going to see a replay of the first time these two teams met. I think Carter Carroll's going to have a big one this time around against Zavarian if BCI is going to advance and get back to Gillette for the first time in a while. And I give them a good chance. BC High was one of my teams that I picked to make it to Gillette. Maybe not win it. We'll see. But I think Carter Carroll's going to have to probably throw for like 2 or 3 touchdowns here, mix in the ground game occasionally with Brendan Ryan and a few other pieces if they want to advance.
He's been quietly solid throughout the playoffs. I think they're going to need even more from him, as you're saying here, Brendan, in this round than he's given them in past. I think he's going to be, relied upon more to help them advance. I think, Severian obviously is big up front defensively. So, if they can kind of, it's going to be very hard to stop the BC high ground attack, but if they can slow it down a little bit, then Carter's going to need to step up to kind of elevate them and get them, a second straight win over Severian. All right, Johnny.
I'm going to go receiver. Brennan already went their running back, but I think they're going to have to throw the ball as well to have success. I'm going to go Lawson Foley from Situate. I think they've got a good matchup against Grafton. They just put up points. That's what they do. So whether that's on the ground or through the air, and obviously Lawson's a guy they go to in the air.
And coming off of like an all-time game, not just for a wide receiver, but all around. If I'm not mistaken, 3 touchdowns and 2 picks, Brendan, in that game.
He had 3 touchdowns and was it 2 picks? I thought it was 1 pick.
One pick, okay.
But he had a touchdown return on the pick.
Oh, okay. So there you go.
That's
Just
2 Hail Mary touchdown receptions from Johnny Donovan out of his 4 or 5 completions on the night. And then he had a pick 6. So quite a good night for Lawson Foley.
Yeah, so just does it on both sides of the ball. Bill Vos, our colleague, so often says, I don't know if he's actually I think he's probably said it on a broadcast, but he certainly says it off. He's like, Lawson gets a ton of looks because he's a great receiver. He's like, I think Lawson's even better defensively than he is on offense. And I think there's probably a case to be made for that. But obviously, for these purposes, he's a great pick on the offensive side of the ball, Johnny. All right, I'm going to take my first running back here, and I am going to go. See, this is again where I just think like the pool is so deep. So we took one of their running backs last week. I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to go Haggai Joseph from Randolph. They are scoring so much right now. I imagine they're not going to have quite the same output against Neshoba Valley Tech this week that they have through the first couple weeks of the playoffs. But they're still going to put up points, and it feels like everybody who touches the ball has a 2 touchdown day for them. So give me a guy, Joseph. He's been good through the opening stretch of the playoffs here, and I like him to have a couple scores. All right, Brendan.
I think I'm going to go get my first receiver off the board here, and it's going to be a very tough matchup for Marshfield this week. You got 2 options really left on the board for the postseason. I'm going to go with Brady Crowley as Charlie Carroll's still coming back from an injury. And I think Tormas is going to be throwing the ball a lot in this one if they want to keep up. He might have to run the ball too, like we saw last year at Gillette.
Yeah, I think Brady's back, and I'm not 100%, but I think he's back. And they need him. They need him. They need a full complement of weapons here against King Philip. And I think that he's dynamic. I think they more so than because they have such a kind of pro style passing attack. I just feel like more than most offenses, they do a really nice job of getting their tight end involved. And so I think Brady they've had a good stretch with with the Summerses, but I think you know Brady would add a lot to get him back in there and get him some touches, and he's such a big red zone threat. So I like it, Brendan. Johnny, close up round three.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at that same idea. Charlie Carroll's he's back from injury,
He
right?
is back from
Fine, yeah.
injury.
I'm gonna go Charlie Carroll. A lot of what Brendan said. I mean, they're gonna have to throw the ball. I think Tormas is gonna have a big game, and whoever they throw to, I think a couple of guys are gonna have to step up, and obviously Charlie is one of those guys.
Yeah, Charlie was a guy that I had on my board this week. I think, yeah, I just echo a lot of what I said there as well. They need to be at full health. They're probably in a better spot right now in terms of freshness. They've gotten this far without Brady for a long stretch of the season, without Charlie for a long stretch of the season. And so, while they're still kind of getting their sea legs on them, the flip side of that is they're still, they're a lot fresher than they were going into the matchup with KP last year. And it seems that Davin is kind of in the same boat at running back, which is me now just kind of talking about the matchup in general. But I do feel good about Charlie's chances to have an effect in this game. All right, I'm going to take us into round four, and I'm gonna I'm gonna double dip, and I'm going to try to get a little on both ends of things. I'm going to go with Nolan Keneally, wide receiver out of Carver. Um, Nathan Helms had a great game last week for you, Johnny, but Nolan was right there as well. 3 catches, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like that's a big day. So I'd like to get that kind of production on my board. Again, I think they're gonna, one way or another, Carver is going to be slinging the ball kind of all over the place, whether it be, they're doing what they want to do offensively and they're playing well or they're chasing. So I think that Nolan's going to get some opportunities. I think that right down the line, a lot of Carver's receiving core is going to get opportunities. So um, happy to have him on my board. All right, Brendan.
I think the train's going to keep rolling for Randolph this week. I know on paper it looks like another tough matchup going against Neshoba Valley, but Randolph has played a couple of teams that looked really good this postseason and really has just coasted. So I'm going to go running back here. I'm going to go with Nate Gomes Correa, the other running back from their double-headed monster of a backfield.
Yeah, and what is a double-headed monster has kind of turned into like a
Triple.
four-headed monster. Like and then you add in the quarterback, Abe Cornett, and it's like it's friggin' Medusa back there. Like there's so many different ways that they can come at you out of the backfield, and nobody has slowed him down yet. And I don't think they're getting slowed down this round. So, good pick, Brennan. I think that's a solid one. All right, Johnny, close out round four.
You've both afforded me the luxury of waiting on my quarterback, so I'm gonna close out the running back room here. I'm gonna go with Brendan Ryan from BC High. I just think that's going to be a really good game, great environment down in Brockton, and I think just your big players are going to have to step up in that game, and I think BCI is going to have to try to establish some sort of a running attack against Severian. And if it goes the same way it did in the first game, they might be running the ball a lot near the end. So I'm going to go with Brendan.
I'm jealous of the people who get to be in attendance for that game, candidly. Like I know we never, we've followed BC High and Severian. There are, we count them among our area teams, and we certainly hope for their success. But they obviously don't, take priority over some of the public schools in our area. But I think that's going to be such a great game day environment Saturday afternoon at Marciano, and I think that they're going to have their hands full. When we said it, or I said it at least when Carter, when Brennan picked Carter, I think they're going to have a tough time running the ball, but they're going to have to. Like Brennan's going to get his touches early because they have to try to establish something on the ground. I think to set the tone against Severian, and they certainly, handled the Hawks well the first go around, and Brennan was a key piece of that. So I think there's a good chance he's right in the mix again. All right, that brings me to the floor for round five, and this is early. I'll give some insight into this here maneuver. I think that I'm scrambling a little bit at running back. My board's thin there, but then also I think this is a tough week to pick a defense. I think our area teams are in store for some really, really tough games. So I want to make sure I get my defense first and pick the defense that I'm most confident in. And I'm most confident. Well, there's two. There are two defenses this week that I'm confident in, and I'm gonna go with the one that I'm not more or less confident in either. I'm gonna go with the Scituate Sailors defense. It's early for a defense, but like I said, I just think it's a tough week to try to pick a D, and I just want to make sure I have that on the board first. So, yeah, give me the Scituate defense. All right, Brendan.
I think I still need another wide receiver, and I'm going to turn to the Duxbury-Tewksbury matchup because I think there could be some scoring in that one.
Mm.
And even though Duxbury is my favorite in that game, it could be like a 35-30 contest. We just saw what Canton did to them last week, and I think Tewksbury has a little bit more seasoning when it comes to the postseason recently. So I'm going to go with Gavin Hammond.
I like it. Yeah, I think that the last couple times these teams have met, it has not been as high a scoring game, but I think it doesn't strike me, I agree with you, Brendan, as necessarily a defensive battle this go around. Duxbury found themselves in a little bit of a shootout last game, and fortunately had the firepower to win that one. So I think going to the wide receiver room there is smart. All right, Johnny.
I just need quarterback and defense, correct? I believe
Correct.
I've
Yep.
gone two running backs, two receivers. Okay. I am going to go with a defense. I'm actually going to go Randolph's defense. Not necessarily that they have a great matchup. Neshoba Valley is a good team, but I just feel like they're a team that's rolling, and I think that kind of mindset will help tremendously. I think they're going to put up a lot of points, and their defense is going to feed off of that. So I'm going to go with Randolph.
Yeah, listen, I think that this was the other defense that I have some measure of confidence in, and that's pretty much where like confidence ends this week. So I think that's a good pick, Johnny. I think that they have a tough matchup, much the way Situate has a tough matchup, much the way that all 10 of our area teams have very tough matchups. But as far as like faith that they're gonna limit the other team's offense, I think Randolph's a good pick. All right, that takes us to round five, and with the technical difficulties, I didn't necessarily afford myself any. I didn't really solve any issues that I was having at the running back position. So I'm gonna dip into the Hanover matchup. Give me Aiden Booten. Give me Aiden Booten going up against Foxborough. Um, he's just a dog, you know. That's really about the summation of my justification for this pick is Aiden's a dog. They're going to need dogs in this game. I think they're going to have a hard time running the ball, but I think that, he's going to get involved out of the backfield one way or another. And um, yeah, and that's a guy going into an absolute battle that I want on my board. So happy to have Aiden Booten. All right, Brendan needing a defense to close out your board.
I mean, both took the top two I had on my board,
Yeah.
so I really don't know where to go here. You know what? This flies in the face of everything I literally just said to you, but I think Duxbury
Duxbury.
can get some defensive fantasy points here. So give me the Duxbury Dragons against Tewksbury.
Yeah. Well, I'll say it
They
is
might
what I
get
said.
takeaways is the only thing. Like they might give up points, but they might get takeaways too.
Yeah, they won because they forced a late fumble
Humble.
against Canton. Um, we'll ignore the fact that I don't, like turnovers don't count for any points in the WATD Fantasy Draft, but they have. I will go back to what I said. It has not been a high scoring matchup the last couple times these teams have met. So there's probably more sound logic on that side than there is the Gavin Hammond pick, if that makes any difference to you. So I
Well, in this matchup here, I look at Duxbury and I feel like they have a chance to pull off a defensive win here.
Yeah.
Like if
No.
it does go defensively, like it turns into a 17-14 game, I think that's a possibility too.
You're well positioned
But
for
the other two, I think the other options I had, I just feel like all of those are going to be so high scoring.
Yeah. I think you're well positioned for 3 out of 4 possible outcomes, and they're the only three that I see really as likely. Like if Duxbury blows Tewksbury out, good. You've got somebody on the Duxbury offense and the Duxbury D. If it's a low scoring game, then your defense is going to get points. If it's a high scoring game, then you're probably getting some points from the wide receiver. So we're just rooting for anything but a Tewksbury blowout, and I think you're fine. I think it's a safe bet we're not going to get that. All right, Johnny, your quarterback to round out the draft.
I didn't realize we hadn't picked him yet in the playoffs. I'm gonna go Tormas from Marshfield. I think he's been playing well. King Philip, I mean, we've talked about it. He's gonna be throwing the ball a lot. Obviously, I have Charlie as well, so hopefully the two of them will connect for a couple touchdowns here. But obviously, tremendous talent, and if they're gonna go and knock off King Philip, he's gonna have to have a big game.
He didn't come off the board until like one of the last couple weeks of the regular season. I don't know. He's just been quietly just sitting there, and we haven't gone after him. So yeah, I mean, this is great. Got to get him on the board. I think he's going to have a good game, one way or another, and they're going to need him to be, I think, as good as he's been probably to advance, to get by King Philip. But I mean, he's playing well. He had a great game against Winchester, obviously after missing the first round. So, I think you have to hope he's ready to go. Last kind of stand against King Philip and see if he can muster up a good performance. So, all right, that rounds out the board. So let me run it down. Out of the one spot, I had Carver quarterback Jack Balzerini. Running backs, Haggai Joseph out of Randolph and Aiden Booten out of Hanover. Wide receivers, Ben Johnson out of Hanover as well, and Nolan Keneally out of Carver with the Scituate defense. Brennan out of the 2 spot had Carter Carroll out of BC High at his quarterback position, Willie Robinson out of Scituate running back, and Nate Gomes-Correa out of Randolph. And then at wide receiver had Brady Crowley, tight end, so his pass catching position, and Gavin Hammond out of Marshfield and Duxbury, respectively, along with the Duxbury defense. Johnny Tormas, quarterback out of Marshfield. Running backs, Will Bostrom out of Norwell, and Brendan Ryan out of BC High. Wide receivers, Lawson Foley out of Scituate, Charlie Carroll out of Marshfield, and the Randolph defense. All right, that does it for us. So we got a big week coming up here in the Final Four. We're going to be on hand down at Plymouth South High for Hanover versus Foxborough on Friday night, 6:30 start. We'll have that for you coming right out of the 6 o'clock news on 95.9 WATD. And then it's a doubleheader on Saturday. Scituate versus Grafton at 1, Duxbury versus Tewksbury at 6. All coming to you live from Walpole High, all on 95.9 WATD. So a very exciting day, big day. Really looking forward to it. Go ahead and like and subscribe to our YouTube page. We'll have content like this every week of the regular season. Hopefully bridge the off-season gap with some more stuff this year as well. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SE on WATD for those draft results. All right, until next time, for Brendan and Johnny, I'm Quinn, and this has been the Final Four edition of the WATD Fantasy Draft.